Good morning children. How are you children? I hope you all fine. Children, in the previous class we all learned about sexual reproduction in flowering plants, isn't it? What are the two processes involved in sexual reproduction in flowering plants? The pollination and fertilization, isn't it mom? We all learned about pollination in the previous class. Okay. What is called pollination? The transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the flower is called pollination, isn't it? What are the two types of pollination? Self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination is also called autogamy and cross-pollination is also called allogamy. You learnt about the advantages and disadvantages of both, isn't it? Today, you are going to learn about the second process, that is fertilization. Okay, there are the two processes involved in sexual reproduction in flowering plants. First process is pollination, second one is fertilization, isn't it mom? Okay, listen, this fertilization in plants. During fertilization, you all know about the structure of pollen grain, isn't it? What about the structure of pollen grain? It is double layered. Outer layer is thick and it is called exine, and the inner thin layer is called intine, isn't it? This is the structure of pollen grain. It encloses two nucleus. One is vegetative nucleus, another one is generative nucleus, isn't it? Outer exine, pollen grain consists of two layers. Outer exine, which is thick, and inner intine, which is thin. And this outer exine is provided with germ pore, isn't it mom? So it encloses, these all encloses two nuclei, vegetative and generative nuclei. This generative nuclei divides and form two male gametes, isn't it? So pollen tube carry two male gametes. Listen, this pollen grain, at the time of fertilization, pollen grain reaches the right stigma and begin to germinate. This is stigma. You all know the parts of gynoecium, isn't it? This is ovary, style and stigma. Yes, this is ovary, style and stigma. This is the female reproductive part of a flower, isn't it ma? When the pollen grain or the male reproductive structure reaches the right stigma of the flower and begins to germinate. Okay, this when the pollen grain reaches the right stigma and begins to germinate. During germination, the pollen grain form the long tube, that is called pollen tube. Okay, pollen grain reaches the right stigma and starts to germinate. Then pollen grains form a small tube-like structure. This tube, that is called pollen tube. What is it called? Pollen tube. Then next is the pollen grains form. Pollen grain form a small tube-like structure, that is called pollen tube, which emerges through the germ pore. Exine is provided with a small pore called germ pore, isn't it? Which emerges through the germ pore. The contents of the pollen grain. Now the pollen grain contains the nucleus, and the contents of the pollen grain move into the pollen tube. This pollen tube grows through the tissues of the style. This is style, isn't it? This region, this is style. So pollen tube grows through the tissues of the style and stigma and finally reaches the ovule through the micropyle. You all know what is micropyle, isn't it? The opening of an ovule is called what? Micropyle. Now the pollen tube reaches the micropyle. Here the vegetative cell degenerates or disappears, and the the generative cell divides into two nuclei or two male gametes. Okay, so at the tip of the pollen tube bursts and the male gametes liberate. The tip of the pollen tube bursts and two sperms enter the embryo cell. One of the sperm, now here, this is the tip of the pollen tube burst and two sperms are liberated. One of the sperm fuses with the egg. Okay, one of the sperms fuses with the egg, that is called syngamy. Fusion of male gamete with the egg, that is called syngamy. Okay, syn means fusion. Okay, the gametic union. Now the second male, already pollen tube carry two male gametes, I said, isn't it? One of the male gamete fuses with the egg and results in the formation of diploid zygote. Okay, the second sperm fuses with the polar nucleus or secondary nucleus which is there in the center, and already the secondary nucleus is diploid in nature. Okay, diploid in nature. Have two sets of chromosome. Now the second male gamete fuses with the secondary nucleus or primary endosperm of this secondary nucleus to form triploid nucleus, that is called a triple fusion. Okay, now one of the sperm fuses with the egg, that is called a syngamy, and it forms a diploid zygote. Already the nature of egg is haploid. When the haploid sperm fuses with the egg, results in diploid zygote, that is called a syngamy. Okay, the other sperm fuses with the secondary nucleus. The other sperm, the second sperm, already pollen tube carry two sperms. One of the sperm fuses with the egg and the second sperm fuses with the secondary nucleus, that is called triple fusion. Okay, triple fusion. It is called a triple fusion because it carries the nature of the secondary nucleus is diploid. When one of the sperm fuses with the diploid nucleus, results in the formation of triploid, that is called a triple fusion. Okay, ma? Now this primary endos, so fertilize, one of the sperm fertilizes egg and the other sperm fertilizes the secondary nucleus. This is called the double fertilization. Okay. Okay, the second sperm fuses with the diploid secondary nucleus, that is called a triple fusion. Okay, now this fertilization, the sperm first fertilizes the egg and second it fertilizes the secondary nucleus. So it is also called double fertilization. After triple fusion, the primary endosperm nucleus. After the triple fusion, the primary endosperm nucleus develops into an endosperm. Okay, develops into an endosperm. This endosperm provides food to the developing embryo. Now, later the synergids. So the synergids, the cells which are opposite to the micropylar end. These synergids these are antipodals. And the sides of egg 2 cells are there. These are synergids, isn't it? The cells which are nearer to the micropylar end, that is synergid. These synergids and thalassal end 3 cells. These cells are disappeared. Okay. So endosperm provides food to the developing embryo. What is the function of endosperm? Endosperm provides food to the developing embryo. Later, synergids and antipodals are regenerate. Okay, ma'am. Then fertilization is important, isn't it? Now we are going to learn about the significance of fertilization. It stimulates the ovary to develop into a fruit. This is ovary, isn't it, ma'am? Ovary encloses the ovule. So this is the ovary. It stimulates the development of fruit. Then it helps in the development of new characters from two different individuals. Okay. So these are the significance of fertilization. Next, the after fertilization, what are the changes takes place in flower? The ovule develops. Here inside the ovary there will be the ovule, isn't it? Here this is the ovule. Ovule develops into a seed. Ovule develops into a seed. Then integuments. Integuments develop into seed coat. The integuments of the ovule develop into seed coat. Then the ovary enlarges and this ovary enlarges and develops into a fruit. Okay. These are the post-fertilization changes takes place in flower. Listen. So fertilization, the fusion of male and female gamete is fertilization. Okay, so at the time of fertilization, what will happen? The pollen grain reaches the right stigma and start to germinate and form a long pollen tube. This pollen tube carry pollen grain contain two nucleus, vegetative and generative cell, isn't it? This vegetative cell degenerates and generative cell divides into two and form two male gametes. These pollen tube grows into the tissues of style and stigma and reaches the micropylar end. And at the time of fertilization, these pollen tube burst open and the two male gametes are liberated. One of the male gamete fuses with the egg and the process is called syngamy. The second male gamete fuses with the secondary nucleus, that is called triple fusion because the nature of secondary nucleus is diploid. Okay, the nature of egg is haploid, so it is diploid. The gamete formed as a result of syngamy or gametic union is diploid, but triple fusion, the nature of nuclei are triploid in nature, so it is triple fusion. Okay, so this after triple fusion, the endosperm nucleus is developed into endosperm. This endosperm nucleus is developed into endosperm. It nourishes the developing embryo. Okay, then significance of later the synergids. What are called the synergids? At the sides of the egg, two cells are there. These are synergids. What are antipodals? The cells just opposite to the or towards the cell end or just opposite to the micropylar end. These are called antipodals. These cells degenerate. Okay, later these cells degenerate. Now, what are the post-fertilization changes takes place in flower? The ovule develops into seed, ovary wall or the integuments develops into seed coat. Integuments develops into seed coat. Ovary turns into fruit. These are the post-fertilization changes that takes place in flower. Okay, children, you have to mark the question answers now. Now turn page 257. All turn page 257. So fill in the blanks. Roman number 2, fill in the blanks. First one, the embryo sac in a typical dicot at the time of fertilization is 7-celled and 8 nuclei. Write down 7-celled and 8 nuclei. Okay. Roman number 2, first one, 7-celled and 8 nuclei. Second question, first one, 7-celled and 8 nuclei. 7-celled and 8 nuclei. Number 2, after fertilization, the ovary develops into fruit. Then number 3, planaria reproduces asexually by regeneration. Okay, by regeneration. Then turn next page. This true or false already marked. Then Roman number 5. If one pollen grain produces 2 male gametes, how many pollen grains are needed to fertilize 10 ovules? Answer, 10 pollen grains. Okay, 10 pollen grains because each pollen grain is having 2 cells, that is generative and vegetative. In that, generative divides into 2 and it fertilizes 1 ovule. Okay, okay. Now 10 pollen grains. Write down the answer. 10 pollen grains. Roman number 5, 1, 10 pollen grains. 10 pollen grains. Then number 2. In which part of the flower germination of pollen grain takes place? Where it takes place? Stigma, right? Stigma. Then number 3, name 2 organs which reproduces through budding. Answer is yeast, hydra. Write down. Children, write down in the book. Hydra. Okay. Then fourth question, mention the function of endosperm. Mention the function of endosperm. Answer is there in page 248. 248. Third point, endosperm provide food to the developing embryo. Roman number 5-4. Roman number 5-4. Answer is there in page 248. Third point, endosperm provides food to the developing embryo. Next one, short answer, first question. Short answer, first question. What will happen if you cut planaria into small fragments? Write down the answer there. Planaria can be cut into many pieces, a number of pieces. Planaria can be cut into many number of pieces, and each piece can give rise to a complete organism, and each piece can give rise to a complete organism. Can give rise to a complete organism. Okay. Next, why is vegetative propagation practiced in growing some type of plants? Why is vegetative propagation is practiced in some type of plants? Write down the answer there. Some plants do not produce seeds. Some plants do not produce seeds. Write down. Some plants do not produce seeds. Do not produce seeds. Some plants do not produce seeds. Here, hence, write down now, hence vegetative propagation. Hence vegetative propagation. Hence vegetative propagation is practiced to propagate such plants. To propagate such plants. Okay. Next, define triple fusion. Write down. Define triple fusion. Define triple fusion. The process of fusion of. Define triple fusion. The process of fusion of fourth one. The process of fusion of second male gamete. Process of fusion of second male gamete. Second male gamete with secondary nucleus. With secondary nucleus. Secondary nucleus is called triple fusion. Is called triple fusion. Then question number 3. How does binary fission differ from multiple fission? How does binary fission differ from multiple fission? Question number 3. How does binary fission binary fission differ from multiple fission? Write like this: binary fission, and draw two columns. Okay, multiple fission. Binary fission and multiple fission. First point is a nucleus divides into two parts. Nucleus divides into two parts. Binary fission nucleus divides into two parts. Here nucleus divides into many parts. Second point, it gives rise to two individuals. It gives rise to two individuals. Example, amoeba. Here it gives rise to many individuals. It gives rise to many individuals. Example, plasmodium. Okay. So this is the difference. These two are the differences between binary fission and multiple fission. Next is identify the parts. Question number 10. Identify the parts A, B, C and D. Here the pollen grain structure is given, isn't it? Identify the parts A, B, C and D. Question number 10. Identify the parts A, B, C and D. What is A? Exine. Right now, A, exine. B, in time. C, generative cell. C. Generative cell, and D. Vegetative nucleus. Vegetative nucleus. Okay. Next is next one is 11th question. Write the events involved in the sexual reproduction of a flowering plant. What are the events? Pollination, fertilization. Write down pollination, fertilization. Pollination, fertilization. These are the two events involved in the sexual reproduction of a flowering plant. First, then 11A. Discuss the first event and write the types. Page 246. Discuss the first event and write down the types. The first Roman number 6, 11A. Answer is there in 246 under the heading pollination. What is pollination? That is the first event, isn't it? The transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the flower is known as pollination. Mark it. And the types self-pollination and cross-pollination. That also you mark it. Next 11B. Mention the advantages and the disadvantages of that event. Page 246 and 247. 246 and 247. Advantages of self-pollination, 3 points are there, that you mark it. Disadvantages of the same, 3 points are there, that also you mark it. Then advantages of cross-pollination, 2 points are there. Disadvantages of cross-pollination, 4 points are there. These are the points you have to mark it. Okay. Next one. Long answer that you marked already, isn't it? Then Roman number 81. Roman number 81. In angiosperms, the pollen germinates to produce pollen tube that carries two gametes. What is the purpose of carrying two gametes when single gamete can fertilize the egg? Page 248. Answer is there in page 248. Last point. The first part, last point. One sperm fuses with the egg. Roman number 81. One sperm fuses with the egg and forms a diploid zygote. The other sperm fuses with the second nucleus to form primary endosperm. After this, you have to write a sentence there. After triple fusion, primary endosperm develops into an endosperm. After triple fusion, primary endosperm nucleus develops into an endosperm. Next sentence. The purpose of carrying two gametes is endosperm provides food to the developing embryo. Endosperm provides food to the developing embryo. Okay. So after triple fusion, primary endosperm nucleus develops into an endosperm. The purpose of carrying two gametes in endosperm, is endosperm provides food to the developing embryo. Okay, ma'am. Then in the previous chapter also did not mark few questions, that also mark it. Page 240. You take page 240. Page 240. Roman number 4. 240, Roman number 4, first one. A plant hormone concerned with the stimulation of cell division and promotion of nutrient mobilization is cytokinin. That is true. Then gibberellins cause parthenocarpy in tomato. That is also true. Number 3, ethylene retards senescence of leaves, flowers and fruits. Underline it. The given statement is false, so you write false. And underline the term retards and write. Underline the term retards and write hastens. Retards, underline retards and write hastens. Okay. Then shortens answer in a word or sentence. First one, which hormone promotes the production of male flowers in cucurbits? Gibberellin. Second, write the name of a synthetic auxin 2,4-D. Which hormone induces parthenocarping in tomato? Gibberellin. Okay, second one, short answer. Roman number 7, short answer. Second one, what is bolting? How it can be induced artificially? Answer is there in 231. 231. Under the heading Gibberellin. Second point. Sudden, second point, second line. It starts from the second line. Sudden shoot elongation followed by flowering is called bolting. Sudden shoot elongation followed by flowering is called bolting. Then how it can be induced artificially? One more question is there, isn't it? For that, you have to write a sentence along after this word bolting. Artificially, bolting can be induced. Artificially, bolting can be induced on rosette plants by the treatment of gibberellin. Okay. Next one, number 3. Roman number 7, number 3. Bring out any two physiological activities of abscisic acid. Answer is there in 232. Isn't it? 232. There you mark 2 points. Okay. Next one, long answer question. Roman number 8. Long answer question. Which name the gaseous plant hormone, describe its 3 actions. First ethylene, then you have to answer is there in 232. Ethylene, and you have to mark the physiological effects also. Next, higher order thinking skills. First one, what would happen if gibberellin, what would happen or what would be expected to happen if gibberellin is applied to the rice seedlings? Page 231. What would happen if gibberellin is applied to the rice seedlings? Page 231. Application of gibberellin. First point, okay, application of gibberellin on plants stimulate extraordinary elongation of internode. This causes back disease. In rice plant, what will happen? Write down there. After internode, you write down this causes back disease. This causes back disease. Next. Question B, a rotten fruit gets mixed with unripe fruit. What will happen? A rotten fruit gets mixed with unripe fruit. Write down the answer. If the rotten fruits get mixed with unripened fruits, then the ethylene produced from the rotten fruit will hasten the ripening of unripe fruit. Ripening of unripe fruits. Okay. Question 3. When cytokinin is not added to the culture medium. Start from the answer like this. If cytokinin is not added to the culture medium, then the cell division, growth and differentiation will not be observed. Okay. Then question number 3. A plant hormone was first discovered in Japan. When rice plants suffered from back disease caused by Gibberella fujikura. Based on the information, answer the following question. First one, identify the hormone involved in this process. What's the hormone? Gibberellin. Then which property of this hormone causes this disease? Page 231, which already marked, isn't it? The application of gibberellin on plants stimulate extraordinary elongation of internode. This causes back disease. Then give 2 functions of this hormone. Page 232, the answer is there. You have to mark any 2 functions of this hormone. Okay, children, today's work you have to write the answer for the question. Describe the fertilization in plants. Describe fertilization in plants, page 248. With the diagram, you have to write down this answer. Learn and write down this answer in your notebook, as well as the short answer, first 5. Okay, first 5, 1 to 5. Roman number 6, 1 to 5. You learn and write it in your notebook. Thank you, children. We shall meet again in the next class.